Imagine this for just a second. Imagine standing on stage using Ableton Live for tracks, having full control of your entire set list, knowing exactly where you are, being able to jump around your set list easily while it's playing and queue up your next song, and your computer's nowhere nearby. I want to show you in today's lesson, which is actually a preview lesson from a brand new course I just wrapped up called Using TAZ Pro and TAZ Lite with Ableton Live. The particular lesson I want to show you talks about using the Oakboard Floor Vista from Oaktone paired with another one of my favorite pieces of gear, the MioXM from iConnectivity. When you pair these two devices together, here's what you get. You get a full display of your set list on the Floor Vista. Connect that to your MioXM, connect a Ethernet cable to your computer, and your computer can literally be 500 feet away from you, and you still get a display of your set list on your pedal. So what you're about to watch is a preview from this course. You get the full entire lesson for free. But if you're interested in becoming a From Studio to Stage student, and you can get access to this entire course, plus every single one of our courses that we have on the site, whether it's playback, it's about using Dante, using MIDI controllers with your computer, and with Ableton Live, advanced tracks things, no matter what it is, I'm going to talk you through how to use that successfully on stage with Ableton Live. So if you're interested in becoming a subscriber, then head to FromStudioToStage.com. Check out the site, check out what we have there. And whether you are or not, or you're already subscribed, check out this free preview of this brand new lesson from the Using TAZ Lite and TAZ Pro with Ableton Live course. In this lesson, we're going to talk about using our Oakboard Floor Vista connected to our MioXM. Our MioXM is connected to our computer via Ethernet, and on our computer is running TAZ Pro. And the goal of all this, the hope of all this, is that we can connect our Oakboard Floor Vista to our XM and then use an Ethernet cable that could go 10 feet, 15 feet, 200 feet from there to our computer, and then eventually connect and link the Floor Vista with Ableton Live so that we can actually see our set list from here, completely control it from here, and keep Ableton's side of stage. Now, in order for this to happen, there's quite a few steps we need to take, but we're just going to walk through this systematically, okay? First, let's talk about how everything is connected, and then we'll start walking through this step by step. So first thing, I've got my Oakboard Floor Vista connected via USB to the USB host port, just one of the USB host ports on my MioXM. Next thing is I've got an Ethernet cable here on the front of the MioXM. That's going into a network switch. And then the other thing you need to know is that my computer, this Mac Mini, the computer I'm using, is connected to that same network switch via an Ethernet cable. So the connection from my MioXM to my computer is done solely via an Ethernet cable. And it's not direct, but it's Ethernet to network switch, Ethernet to network switch. Okay, so hopefully that all makes sense. Now, the next thing we need to do is download Oracle for X Series, which is the free control software from iConnectivity. And we've got to, and I've included the link below this lesson so that you guys can download that. And we've got to walk through a few different steps in order to make this happen, okay? So first, let's go to USB host port reservation, because whenever we use any USB MIDI controller with our iConnectivity, we've got to reserve the host port. And that basically means we want to lock our MIDI controller with that host port, because we can use up to 8 USB host ports or 8 USB MIDI controllers with the MioXM. So we want to make sure we lock one to a specific host port. So I'm going to go USB host port here. You could see for host port 1, I've already chosen the Oakboard Floor Vista. Okay, so that's my first option. So first, reserve your USB host port. Okay, that's step 1. Second step is we want to establish a connection from our MioXM to our computer using RTP. The way we're going to do this is we're going to go to Audio MIDI Setup. And probably by default, you'll see your audio window. So you want to go up to Window and do Show MIDI Studio. And you want to click this globe icon, or go up to Window and do, go to MIDI Studio and do Open MIDI Network Setup. Okay. And what we're going to do is create a MIDI network here. Press your plus to create a MIDI network. You want to enable it. You want to give it a local name, give it a bonjour name. And we're going to make sure that we remember what this bonjour name is here. And then we're going to change who may connect to me to anyone. Now, As soon as you do that, you should see listed in your directory here, all 12 RTP ports on the MioXM. If you don't see your MioXM listed there, that means they're not on the same network, or they're different IP addresses, or you have something wrong with your connection. So again, MioXM, Ethernet cable to a network switch, and then an additional Ethernet cable from the network switch to my Mac Mini. Because I see my MioXM listed here, I know that they're on the same network. Okay. So I'm going to copy this Bonjour name here, copy it. Going to go into Oracle for X Series, go to RTP Network MIDI. And on my first RTP port here, I changed it from responder, that's what it is by default, to initiator. I pasted in the MIDI network name here. And again, MIDI network is the Bonjour name of the MIDI network I created on this computer. Okay, say that 4 times fast. Now, once I pasted that, you'll see that I get this IP address that's connected via port 5004. And it's connected to MIDI network. You'll also notice over on Audio MIDI setup, the MioXM has joined this network as a participant. Okay, so at this point, what we've done, we've reserved our USB host port on our MioXM. We've established a Ethernet connection from our MioXM to our computer using the MIDI network setup. Okay, so that's how far we've gotten. If you want to pause, go back, do those things, come back, and let's pick up. Okay. So from here now, let's go back out. We've reserved our host port. We've created an RTP connection between our XM and our computer. Next thing we need to do is do MIDI routing. So I'm going to click in here. First, I want to start with my source. So where's my MIDI coming from? My MIDI is coming from my USB hosted device instrument port. Okay. So I'm going to click host one. Over on the right are all my destinations. So where do I want this to go? I want it to come from host one, and I want it to go to RTP one. Okay. Now we can't just make this connection. It needs to be a bi-directional connection. So we're sending MIDI from our host port to RTP to our MIDI network. Okay. And then into Ableton eventually. Now we need to come from Ableton to RTP to host one, if that makes sense. Okay. So where's our source now? We scroll down here. It's RTP one. Where do we want it to go? We want it to go to host one. Okay, USB hosted device instrument host one. So what we've done there is we've established a bi-directional communication line coming from our MIDI controller to Ableton, and then from Ableton to our MIDI controller. Okay, with that, everything is set up on the Oracle for X Series side, on the MioXM side, and almost done on our Oakboard Floor Vista. But let's go into Ableton Live now. We're going to go into MIDI preferences, command, comma. We want to go on the input side for network MIDI network. We're going to enable remote. Okay. So you may have named yours something other than MIDI network, and whatever you named it in the local setting there is what this is going to show up as. Okay. So I've enabled remote on that. On the output side of this network MIDI network, I've enabled sync. Okay. Because I want to sync up my play button with Ableton Live. Now, with all of that done, let's go and let's make our MIDI mappings first. Okay, we're gonna make MIDI mappings from TAZ Pro, from our Oakboard Floor Vista to TAZ Pro. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is hit command comma, and then let's go ahead and map this. So we're gonna click previous on TAZ Pro here, and I'll show you. You can probably guess what button I'm gonna map here. I'm gonna press previous there. Now let's look at live. You'll see that that mapped. If for some reason that does not map and that doesn't show up, then you've missed something in the connection. So start all the way back at the beginning and make sure that my Floor Vista is connected via USB. Make sure you've gone in and done a USB host port reservation in Oracle for X Series. Make sure your Ethernet cable is connected to your switch, and then make sure your computer is connected to your switch using a Ethernet cable as well. Okay. And then again, in Oracle for X Series, let's open this back up. We'll just walk through this one more time just to make sure you've got it. Make sure you've reserved your host port. We've done that. Make sure you've established your RTP port and it's connected. We've done that. Make sure on your MIDI routing side that you've sent MIDI from host one to RTP one. And then this doesn't matter yet, but we still want to make sure it's already done. Make sure we're sending back MIDI from RTP one back to host one. Okay. So now with that, let's finish doing our MIDI mappings here. So we're going to click next here, and then let's go to next on our controller. We're going to click play here. And then as you guessed, we'll hit play on our controller. Finally stop, and then we're going to hit stop on our controller. Okay. So now let's get out of MIDI map mode. Final thing, we want to sync up to where this menu here, our mini cue list window, shows up here. The final step of this is for us to triple click our stop button. Okay. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3. And you can see just like that, as quickly as that, it's connected to TAZ Pro. And if you look on this side, if you need to, over on in TAZ Pro on your second page where your cue list is, you could see which port it's using for our connection to our Oakboard Floor Vista. In this case, it says network MIDI network, which again is the name of that particular MIDI network that I've set up. So the beauty of this setup now is at my feet, I can have this Oakboard Floor Vista. I can have my MioXM next to it or nearby with this USB cable. And then the distance of this Ethernet cable could be 10 feet, could be 15 feet, it could be 200 feet. And my playback computer could be side of stage, could be at front of house, could be backstage, wherever we want it to be, could be in a completely different room as long as it's on the same network. And I get a visual indication of my set list from my feet. So I can navigate through my set list. And again, if you look over it live, we are navigating as we use our MIDI controller. We're jumping through our set list, right? And then when we're ready, we can press play.
YKCAM.
Play over in live as well too. So that is one of the coolest things ever. It's a way to have freedom and flexibility on stage using tracks, using a MIDI controller. So you stay in the flow and stay in the moment, and combine your Floor Vista with a MioXM with TAZ Pro and forget about it. It's just game over. It's amazing. So that's a look at using the Oakboard Floor Vista with a MioXM with TAZ Pro with Ableton Live. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that quick preview of our using TAZ Lite and TAZ Pro with Ableton Live course. As a reminder, this is a preview lesson from that course. If you want the entire course, I've linked to it in the description in this video, and you can get that by becoming a From Studio to Stage subscriber. And if you're looking for a great way to learn to use tracks on stage like a pro with Ableton Live and every single piece of gear you could possibly imagine with Ableton Live, then head to FromStudioToStage.com. That's the best place to learn all of that. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next week, 10 a.m. Central. Take care, everybody. See you on the next one. Bye.